This show is brought to you by
Saudi foreign assets fall to their lowest level since 2010, and Qatar's trade surplus drops 35.6% in April. You're watching the Daily Brief with Forbes. I'm Ramia Faraj. Saudi's net foreign assets fell to $410 billion in April, the lowest since 2010 and the fifth consecutive month of decline. Foreign reserves fell from $419 billion in March. The kingdom returned to the debt market earlier this month by selling $6 billion of Islamic bonds. The IMF forecasts Saudi will see a budget deficit of 1.1% of GDP this year. It's a contrast to the government's forecast of a second straight surplus of $4.3 billion. Boeing is working towards securing its second huge contract in Saudi this year, with the American plane maker reportedly in talks to sell at least 150 of its 737 MAX jetliners to Riyadh Air. The new carrier, owned by the Public Investment Fund, requires between 300 and 400 single-aisle jets. An announcement may be made at the Paris Air Show in June, though a final decision is yet to be made. At the current $53 million price tag for the MAX 8, a 150-jet order would be worth around $8 billion. Qatar's trade surplus dropped 35.6% year-on-year to $6.04 billion in April. The figure, however, marks an increase of nearly 3.5% compared to March. Qatar's total exports reached $8.4 billion in April, a decrease of 29.4% compared to April 2022. In April, China was Qatar's top export destination with close to $1.5 billion, or a share of 18.3%, followed by South Korea with a share of 16.6% and India with 11.4%. The Turkish lira is at risk of a 29% drop in value should President Erdogan maintain his policy of keeping interest rates low. That's according to Morgan Stanley analysts, who forecast the lira may reach 28 to the dollar by end year if the policy doesn't change. Their forecast came after Erdogan secured another 5-year term in office. He cruised to victory in yesterday's runoff election, leading his opponent by more than 2 million votes, with 99% of the vote counted. President Biden and Republican leader McCarthy say they've finally reached a deal to raise the U.S. debt ceiling and avoid a catastrophic default. It now heads to Congress, which needs to pass the agreement before the government starts running out of money. The bill will suspend the debt ceiling until January 1st, 2025, and it will place curbs on federal spending. But the clock is still ticking down to June 5th, when the Treasury estimates there may not be enough cash to pay bills and debts. Oil advanced on the back of the tentative debt deal, with West Texas futures rising above $73 a barrel this morning after closing 1.2% higher on Friday. Oil remains around 9% lower this year, weighed down by China's slow economic recovery and as the Federal Reserve's aggressive interest rate hikes hamper demand. Russian supply also has been abundant despite its pledges to cut output. Japan's Nikkei surged in early trade to its highest level since July 1990, buoyed by optimism over the U.S. debt deal and a weaker yen. Shares of Japanese chip-related companies continued to outperform after AI euphoria lifted Wall Street. Other Asian markets also rallied on news, with Hong Kong, Shanghai, Singapore, Taipei, Manila, and Wellington also in the green. The Chinese Commerce Ministry has urged Japan to stop semiconductor export controls, calling it a wrongdoing that seriously violates international economic and trade rules. In January, Japan and the Netherlands agreed to match U.S. export controls that limit the sale of some chip-making tools to China. Japan placed restrictions on the export of 23 types of semiconductor manufacturing equipment to China. The U.S. imposed the restrictions to slow China's work on supercomputers that can be used to develop nuclear weapon systems and AI systems. And Disney's live-action version of The Little Mermaid netted the top spot at North American box offices on its opening weekend. The remake of the 1989 animated tale of an underwater princess raked in $117.5 million in U.S. and Canadian box offices, and another $68 million internationally. Despite the #1 spot, the Aquatic Adventures debut wasn't the biggest opening weekend for a live-action Disney adaptation. 2019's The Lion King earned $191.8 million over its opening. I'm Ramia Faraj. This is the Daily Brief. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
This show's brought to you by